Hey, Mike here. Wanted to take just a couple minutes and tell a story that illustrates why frame is so important in a man's life. But before I get to it, just want to make sure that I'm not sitting here trying to claim that I'm like Captain Frame or anything like that. But I will say my frame today is much stronger than it was back when this event took place. And interestingly enough, I can look back through my new frame at this situation and see exactly where things pretty much went to shit. And in fact, with the frame I have today, I can look back over lots of situations in my life and see where things took a turn for the worst. And almost invariably, it was because my frame was either weak to begin with or I let it crumble in the face of some romantic situation. But first, before I get to the story, let's define what is frame. Now, there's really no snapshot of what frame is supposed to look like, as it's different for different people, but in general, frame is an internal structure of the mental, physical, and emotional characteristics by which you live. Let me say that again. It's the internal structure of the mental, physical, and emotional characteristics by which you live. So, it's your values, your desires, your beliefs, your purpose in life, and it's the boundaries and rules you set not only for yourself, but also in your relationships. In other words, frame is really a man defining and living his life in a way that allows him to thrive rather than having it decided for him. And this means that in romantic relationships, certainly, men need a solid and attractive frame that a woman wants to step into and not the other way around. This part is important. Now, to the story. This was a few years ago. I was pretty freshly post-divorce, and I met this fantastic woman who was in state temporarily for a couple of years going to school. We went out on a date, and man, this girl stepped enthusiastically and solidly into my frame. I mean, she really stepped into it. She would drive an hour on Friday evenings to come see me, and then she would drive an hour back on Sunday evenings at the end of the weekend. And I was providing her with new experiences and weekend getaways and nights out and nights in, and she was giving effort and enthusiasm, and man, it was spectacular. And then eventually, as all good things must come to an end, it was time for her to leave after a couple of years. And we had a tearful goodbye, and she went her way and I stayed here. And I got to tell you, it wasn't much more than a couple months, man, when my frame just utterly crumbled and I caught a brutal case of one-itis for this girl and went chasing her. And she was receptive to it at first, but pretty soon things went to hell in a handbasket. And I now know it's because I made the mistake of stepping into her frame where she had no interest in me being, and I had no business being there. I'll spare you the gruesome details, but instead of her driving an hour to come to my place, I was now flying 3 hours to go to her place on her schedule and accommodating her new life. And it all came to a head one night. I was there in this out of state at her place, and a group of women who were part of her new friend group swung by, and they were heading out for a girls' night out having drinks, and she invited herself along with me just standing there, and they went upstairs while she got ready, and I stood there like a doofus. And when she came back down, they went out to the car to wait, and she came over to me and said, "Hey, by the way, is this okay?" And I ate that shit Twinkie because I had no frame in that moment. So I just took it and said, "Of course it's okay." Well, it wasn't. And later on, she apologized. She said that she took me for granted and she didn't really understand why it even happened. But I actually do. It was because I was in her frame and she wanted to be in mine. And so we had flip-flopped our roles, and it simply was incompatible. So the lesson here is that frame really really matters. So, gentlemen, get to work on yours, and good luck to you.